Barron Trump, the youngest son of Donald and Melania Trump, stunned the world with a revelation so explosive it sent shockwaves through their glittering empire. Something incredible happened, something so wild, so jaw-dropping, it's being called the greatest family scandal ever uncovered. The Trump name, synonymous with wealth, power, and unrelenting controversy, has never faced a moment quite like this. What Barron shared wasn't just a secret, it was a wrecking ball, poised to smash through the polished facade of his parents' lives. But what could be so earth-shattering? What could unravel a family that's weathered decades of public storms? The answer lies buried in a tale of love, ambition, and a hidden fracture so deep it's left everyone reeling. Donald and Melania Trump's marriage has always been a magnet for fascination. From the moment they stepped into the spotlight, their union dazzled onlookers with its mix of extravagance and enigma. He, the brash billionaire turned president, she, the poised Slovenian model turned first lady. Together, they built a life that screamed luxury, private jets, golden penthouses, and a spotlight that never dimmed. But beneath the shine, whispers lingered. People wondered, what really went on behind those gilded doors? Their story, splashed across tabloids and TV screens, promised glamour but hinted at something darker, something unspoken. To understand Barron's bombshell, the journey begins with the man at the center, Donald Trump. Born in 1946 in Queens, New York, Donald grew up in a family already steeped in real estate riches. His father, Fred Trump, had carved out a fortune building homes in Brooklyn and Queens, laying the groundwork for Donald's future. The fourth of 5 kids, Donald wasn't just another sibling. He was the one destined to outshine them all. With his father's wealth and his own relentless drive, he turned opportunities into empires. By the 1970s, he was a rising star, a name that meant money and ambition. But it wasn't until he met Ivana Zelníčková that his personal life took center stage. Ivana, a striking Czechoslovakian skier turned model, crossed paths with Donald on a snowy trip to Montreal in 1977. Their wedding that year wasn't just a marriage, it was the launch of a dynasty. Ivana didn't sit on the sidelines. She dove into Donald's world, managing Trump Tower, steering his hotels, and running his casinos. Her fierce personality matched his, and together they built something unstoppable. 3 kids followed. Donald Jr. In 1977, Ivanka in 1981, and Eric in 1984. The Trump family became a fixture in the headlines, lavish parties, flashy appearances, and a lifestyle most could only dream of. Donald was often away, chasing deals, but he made sure his kids knew the value of hustle. Ivana raised them with a firm hand, instilling ambition from the cradle. For a while it looked perfect. The Trumps were America's golden family, rich, beautiful, and untouchable, but perfection doesn't last. By the late 1980s, cracks appeared. Donald's empire grew too fast, his attention stretched thin. Ivana, juggling her own career, felt the strain. The marriage buckled under the weight of it all, and by the early 1990s, they split. The divorce was a media circus. Accusations flew, headlines screamed, and their kids were caught in the chaos. Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric watched their world fracture, but they stayed loyal to both parents. The breakup didn't just end a marriage, it reshaped the Trump legacy. Donald didn't stay single long. In 1993, he married Marla Maples, a TV star he'd been linked to during his messiest days with Ivana. Marla brought a lighter vibe, less business, more sparkle. That same year, she gave birth to Tiffany, Donald's 4th child. Unlike her older siblings, Tiffany grew up outside the Trump organization's orbit. Her childhood was quieter, less public, but Donald doted on her when he could. The marriage, though, fizzled fast. By 1997, Donald and Marla were done. Another chapter closed, another shift in the family puzzle. Tiffany stayed close to her dad, but her life diverged from the high-stakes path of her siblings. Through it all, Donald's kids from both marriages adapted. Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric leaned into the family business, their names tied to his brand. Tiffany carved her own lane, less visible but still connected. Each marriage left its mark, shaping how they saw their father, how they saw family. Donald, always the dealmaker, expected them to rise like he did, but his third marriage to Melania would bring a new player into the mix. A player who'd one day drop a secret so raw it'd threaten to tear it all apart. That player, Barron Trump. And what he revealed wasn't just shocking, it was personal. Barron Trump's revelation didn't just expose a crack, it ripped open a wound in the Trump family's core. But to grasp its weight, the story shifts to Melania Trump, the woman whose journey from a quiet town to the White House set the stage for this drama. Born Melania Navs in 1970 in Novo Mesto, Slovenia, then part of Yugoslavia, she grew up far from the chaos of Donald's world. Her father, Victor, sold cars. Her mother, Amalia, designed clothes. It wasn't a flashy life, but it planted seeds of style and grit in Melania. From the start, she stood out, tall, beautiful, with a quiet fire that hinted at big dreams. As a teenager, Melania didn't waste time. By 16, she was modeling, signing with a local agency and booking gigs across Slovenia. Her looks, sharp cheekbones, piercing eyes caught attention fast. Soon, she was off to Milan, Italy, a city pulsing with fashion and promise. There, she walked runways, posed for designers, and built a portfolio that screamed potential. Milan wasn't the endgame, though. In 1996, at 26, Melania made the leap to New York City, the big leagues. It was a gamble, but she was ready. She landed ad campaigns, shot for Vogue and GQ, and turned heads in a city that chews up dreamers. New York wasn't easy. Melania worked hard, pounding pavement, dodging rejection. She'd studied design and architecture back in Slovenia, but modeling became her ticket. Her elegance, her poise, it wasn't just beauty, it was strategy. She carved a name for herself, a Slovenian import making waves in America's fashion jungle. Then in 1998, fate threw her a curveball. At a party, she met Donald Trump. He was 52, a tabloid king with a trail of headlines. She was 28, a rising star with everything to prove. Their first meeting wasn't fireworks. Melania brushed him off, wary of his playboy reputation. But Donald didn't quit. He chased her and she relented. Their romance kicked off slow. Donald was loud, brash, always in the news. Melania played it cool, dodging the spotlight even as paparazzi trailed her. They dated for years, showing up at glitzy events, but she kept her cards close. He admired her grace. She saw his ambition. In 2004, Donald proposed, big, bold, and public, like everything he did. The wedding came in January 2005, a Palm Beach blowout with celebs, tycoons, and cameras everywhere. Melania wore a $100,000 gown, a symbol of their over-the-top union. It was a fairy tale, or so it seemed. As Donald's wife, Melania didn't just coast. She dipped into his businesses, attended his events, and polished his image. But she stayed private, a mystery in a world that craved every detail. In 2006, their son Barron arrived, named Barron William Trump, a nod to tradition and strength. Born in New York's Presbyterian Hospital, he entered a life of privilege. Trump Tower penthouses, private chefs, the works. Melania poured herself into motherhood, shielding Barron from the chaos of fame. Donald, busy with deals and TV, leaned on her to keep their son grounded. Barron's early years were cushy but controlled. He grew up in Manhattan's gold-plated bubble, a kid with the world at his feet. Melania enrolled him at Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School, a top-tier spot for New York's elite. He excelled, math, sports, a sharp mind, but his parents kept him off the radar. When Donald ran for president in 2016, Barron's life shifted. The White House loomed, and Melania fought to ease him into it. She delayed his move from New York, letting him finish school before uprooting him to D.C. and Washington. He attended St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Potomac, Maryland, another private haven where he could blend in. Through it all, Melania stayed Barron's rock. She dodged the First Lady frenzy, focusing on him instead. Donald's older kids, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Tiffany, lived louder lives tied to the Trump machine. Barron, though, was different. Tall, quiet, he loved soccer and tech, a kid carving his own space. But as he grew, he saw things his siblings missed. Things about his parents, things that simmered beneath the surface. And when he finally spoke, it wasn't just a whisper, it was a scream. A scream that dragged Donald and Melania's secrets into the light, leaving them scrambling to save face. Barron Trump didn't just spill a secret, he lit a match and tossed it into the Trump family's carefully stacked house of cards. The moment came fast, unexpected, and brutal. One sentence from the youngest Trump changed everything. "They sleep separately. I don't know why, but it's been that way forever." Simple words, but they hit like a thunderclap. For years, people had poked at Donald and Melania's marriage, rumors, glances, tabloid theories. Now their own son had yanked the curtain back, exposing a truth so raw it left jaws on the floor. What did it mean? Why did it matter? The answers unravel a saga of tension, isolation, and a family stretched to its breaking point. Barron dropped this bomb in 2025 as Donald returned to the White House for a second term. At 19, he wasn't the little kid in the background anymore. Tall, towering over his peers, he'd grown into a quiet force watching his parents whirled from the edges. His life had been private, guarded by Melania's fierce protection, but this wasn't a slip-up. This was deliberate, a strike aimed straight at the heart of the Trump image. "Forever," he said. "Not a phase, not a quirk, forever." The word hung heavy, hinting at a divide so old, so ingrained. It had shaped Barron's entire life. Imagine it, a kid in a penthouse, then the White House, sensing something off. Night after night, his parents, icons of power and poise, lived separate lives under one roof. Donald in one wing, Melania in another. No shared whispers, no late-night laughs, just silence. For Barron, it wasn't just odd, it was lonely. A boy surrounded by wealth but starved of the warmth most take for granted. Did he hear footsteps in different halls? See doors that never opened together? That kind of quiet cuts deep, especially for a kid who couldn't ask why. At first, it sounds tame. Separate bedrooms. Big deal. Plenty of couples do it, especially the rich, the busy, the famous. Donald at 78 ran on chaos. Late-night calls, global deals, a presidency that never slept. Melania, 54, craved order, her own space, her own rhythm. The White House isn't a cozy cottage. It's a fortress, sprawling and cold. Separate rooms could just be practical, two people juggling insane lives, needing rest. Donald's phone buzzing at 3 a.m., Melania prepping for a charity lunch. It tracks. But Barron's tone, his words, they didn't sell it as convenience. They screamed pain. Think about Donald's days, meetings with advisors, barking orders, jetting off to rallies. He's a tornado, always moving, rarely still. Sleep, a luxury he barely grabs. Melania, though, built her life on control. As First Lady, she picked her battles, events, causes, a polished image, not the full-throttle plunge of her predecessors. She'd slip away from Donald's orbit, retreating to her corner of the mansion. Was it just schedules clashing, or something uglier? Barron's reveal suggests the latter. A rift dressed up as routine, a marriage more contract than connection. The public ate it up. Social media exploded, hashtags, memes, hot takes. "Trump marriage a sham," screamed one post. "Melania's revenge through Barron," guessed another. For years, people had dissected their body language, her stiff smiles, his wandering eyes. Now Barron handed them proof. The Trumps weren't the united front they sold. Critics crowed, fans scrambled to defend. "It's normal," some yelled. "They're old, they need space." But the damage was done. Barron didn't just talk. He humiliated them, airing a truth they'd buried under layers of gold and grit. What drove him to it? Resentment? A teenager tired of the charade. Barron had watched his parents play their parts, Donald the loudmouth king, Melania the silent queen. Maybe he'd had enough. Maybe at 19 he wanted to claw back some power in a family where his voice rarely mattered. His half-siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Tiffany, lived louder, tied to the Trump machine. Barron the baby stayed shadowed, until now. This was his shot, his middle finger to a legacy that sidelined him. And it landed hard. Donald and Melania didn't flinch publicly, not yet. They'd faced worse, affairs, lawsuits, elections, but this stung different. Their own kid, their quiet one, had turned on them. The secret wasn't just about beds, it was about trust, about love, about a family that looked perfect but felt hollow. Was it always this way? Did it start in Trump Tower, carry to the White House, fester through the years? Barron's words painted a picture. A boy growing up in a castle, watching two strangers wear crowns. And now the world watched too, waiting for the next crack to show. Barron Trump's words didn't just hit like a bomb. They ignited a firestorm that threatened to burn the Trump legacy to the ground. They sleep separately. I don't know why, but it's been that way forever. That one line, spoken by their youngest son, wasn't just a pebble in the pond. It was a boulder, crashing through the fragile surface of Donald and Melania's carefully crafted image. The world had always watched them, hungry for cracks in their golden armor. Now, thanks to Barron, those cracks weren't just visible. They were gaping wounds, bleeding out for everyone to see. The fallout wasn't slow. It was instant, chaotic, and brutal. Donald and Melania, the king and queen of controversy, suddenly found themselves on the ropes, humiliated by their own flesh and blood. Picture it, January 2025, Donald Trump back in the White House, his second term barely underway. At 78, he's louder than ever, barking at aides, rallying crowds, promising to make America great again. Melania, 54, glides beside him, her face a mask of elegance, her silence a shield. They've weathered storms before, affairs, bankruptcies, impeachment trials. They're pros at dodging bullets. But this was no tabloid rumor they could swat away with a press release. This was Barron, their quiet, towering 19-year-old, stepping out of the shadows to deliver a gut punch. And the world didn't just gasp, it roared. Social media lit up like a wildfire. X posts flew, thousands every minute. Barron just ended them, one user crowed. Donald and Melania exposed, separate beds, separate lives. Another jeered. Hashtags like Trumpbedgate and Barron blows it up trended worldwide. Memes popped up faster than popcorn. Donald snoring alone in a gold-plated bed, Melania smirking from a distant wing, Barron looming over them with a sly grin. The internet turned it into a circus, but beneath the laughs was a sharper edge. Speculation, judgment, glee. People didn't just want the story, they wanted blood. And Barron had handed them the knife. Donald's reaction was predictable. If he couldn't dodge it, he'd bulldoze it. Sources close to the White House said he raged behind closed doors, slamming fists on desks, yelling about betrayal. "My own kid," he reportedly bellowed, red-faced and packing. Publicly, he tried to spin it. At a rally in Ohio days later, he waved it off with a laugh. "Separate beds, folks, I'm busy saving America. Melania needs her beauty sleep." The crowd cheered, but the smirk didn't reach his eyes. For a man who'd built his brand on winning, this felt like a loss. His son hadn't just spilled a secret. He'd painted Donald as a fool, a husband too weak to keep his wife close. Melania, true to form, stayed silent at first. No statements, no interviews. She appeared at a children's charity event in D.C., flawless in a cream coat, smiling thinly as cameras clicked. But her eyes told a different story, cold, guarded, maybe even hurt. Insiders whispered she was furious, not just at Barron, but at Donald. She blames him for letting it get this far, one aide leaked. She's always wanted privacy, now it's all ruined. Melania had spent years crafting a wall around her life, dodging the spotlight's glare. Barron's words tore that wall down, brick by brick, leaving her exposed in a way she'd never been before. The secret itself wasn't new to everyone. Staffers at Trump Tower and the White House had long noticed the separate suites. It started back in New York. Decades ago, Donald and the master, Melania down the hall. When they moved to D.C. in 2017, it stayed the same. His quarters near the Oval Office, hers in the East Wing. Aides shrugged it off, practicality, they thought. Donald's late-night rants, his calls to world leaders, his restless energy, it made sense he'd need his own space. Melania, with her early mornings and quiet routines, couldn't live in that chaos. But forever. That word from Barron turned a quirk into a confession, a hint into a headline. Rewind to the early days. When Barron was born in 2006, Donald and Melania were still selling the dream, newlyweds with a golden baby, living the high life in Trump Tower. Photos showed them together, Donald beaming, Melania cradling their son. But even then, signs crept in. Donald's schedule was relentless. Deals in Dubai, TV tapings for The Apprentice, golf trips to Mar-a-Lago. Melania stayed home, raising Barron, managing the penthouse. Friends said she liked it that way, her own domain, her own rules. Separate bedrooms started as a convenience, a way to cope with his whirlwind. Over time, it hardened into habit. By the White House years, it was set in stone. Donald thrived on the presidency's grind, briefings at dawn, tweets at midnight. Melania carved out her corner, hosting teas, pushing her Be Best campaign, avoiding his tornado. Staff saw them together at events, State of the Union, Easter egg rolls, but apart at night. They're like roommates, one butler later admitted. Polite, professional, but not close. Barron, growing up in that split world, must have felt it, the chill, the distance. A kid doesn't miss that. And at 19, he didn't just notice, he weaponized it. The public didn't care about logistics. They saw a soap opera, a marriage on ice, a son striking back. Was it revenge? Barron had always been the outlier, younger, quieter, less tied to the Trump machine. His half-siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Tiffany, rode their father's coattails, building brands, chasing power. Barron stayed back, overshadowed by their noise. Maybe he resented it. Maybe he'd stewed for years, watching his parents play perfect while he felt the truth. Forever wasn't just a fact, it was an accusation, a middle finger to the facade they'd forced him to live. Donald's team scrambled to control the damage. Press releases called it nonsense, insisting the Trumps were stronger than ever. Loyalists flooded X, shouting down the haters. "He's a kid stirring trouble," one wrote. "Donald's too busy winning to cuddle," but the doubters drowned them out. "Separate beds, separate hearts," a viral post read, racking up millions of likes. Melania's silence fueled the fire. Why didn't she deny it? Was she embarrassed, angry, done? Rumors swirled. Divorce papers, secret fights, a first lady ready to bolt. The humiliation stung deepest because it was personal. Donald had dodged scandals, Stormy Daniels, tax leaks, Mueller probes, but this came from inside the castle. Melania had faced her own hits, plagiarism claims, "I don't care" jackets, but this stripped her bare. Barron didn't just talk, he shamed them, turning their private pact into public mockery. Friends said Donald called him, voice tight, demanding answers. "Why'd you do it, huh? Why now?" Barron's reply, if there was one, stayed locked away. Melania reportedly refused to see him, retreating to Mar-a-Lago for space. The Trump empire wobbled. Stocks in Trump media dipped, investors spooked by the chaos. Allies like Sean Hannity spun it as fake news, but even Fox News ran segments dissecting the rift. Enemies pounced, CNN aired hour-long specials, pundits grinning as they picked the carcass. "The Trumps are imploding," one gloated. "Barron's the match and they're the gasoline." For a family built on image, this was a gut shot. Donald's bravado, Melania's poise, none of it could hide the truth Barron had unleashed. And the worst was yet to come. Barron Trump's bombshell didn't just spark a scandal, it cracked open a vault of questions about Donald and Melania's marriage. "They sleep separately, forever." Those words echoed, a haunting refrain that turned a quirky detail into a glaring red flag. Was this just a high-powered couple juggling crazy lives, or was it proof of something darker, a union hollowed out, a love long dead? The world watched, picking sides, as the Trump family teetered on the edge of collapse. Barron had humiliated them, no doubt, but the real story wasn't the separate beds, it was what they meant. And the deeper you dig, the uglier it gets. Let's step back. Donald and Melania's romance wasn't a fairy tale, it was a transaction with glitter on top. They met in 1998, him a 52-year-old mogul, her a 28-year-old model clawing her way up. He saw beauty, a trophy. She saw power, a ladder. Early days were flirty, Donald chasing, Melania playing hard to get. By 2005, they sealed it with a wedding that screamed excess. 350 guests, a $1 million ring, a dress that weighed more than Barron would at birth. The press ate it up, America's brash billionaire and his exotic bride. But beneath the flash, fault lines formed fast. Donald lived loud, always had. His life was a hurricane, deals, TV, women. Before Melania, there was Ivana, then Marla, both marriages crumbling under his restless drive. Melania knew the score, she'd seen the headlines, the whispers of affairs. But she signed up anyway, betting on stability. At first it worked. She softened his edges, gave him Barron a fresh start. He gushed about her, my beautiful Melania the best, and she stood by him, serene and steady. They sold unity, a power couple for the ages, but selling isn't living. The separate bedrooms started early, way before the White House. Trump Tower, their Manhattan palace, was big enough for distance. Donald took the master suite, a gold-crusted cave of ego. Melania picked a wing down the hall, quiet, pristine, hers. Friends chalked it up to practicality. He's up all night working, one said. She needs sleep to look that good. Fair enough, Donald's a night owl, always has been. Deals don't wait, and neither did he. Melania, meticulous, lived by routine. Yoga, skincare, Barron's bedtime stories. Sharing a bed with a human tornado. No thanks. But forever isn't practical, it's permanent. Barron's claim stretched back to his earliest memories, 2006-2007, a toddler in a crib hearing separate doors close. By the time he could walk, he knew the drill. Dad's side, mom's side, never together. Kids notice patterns. They feel the air tense, cold, empty. Barron grew up in luxury, sure, private jets, penthouse views, but also in a house split down the middle. Donald jetting off to Vegas, Melania staying back with him. Birthday parties with one parent smiling, the other busy. It wasn't loud fights or slammed doors. It was quieter, sadder, a slow drift no one named. The White House made it worse. January 2017, Donald sworn in, Barron and Melania still in New York. She waited months to move, citing Barron's school. Critics sneered, she hates it there. But she joined eventually, settling into the East Wing. Separate suites stayed the norm. Donald's West Wing buzzed, advisors, crises, late-night rants. Melania's space was calmer, tea with diplomats, be best notes, her own world. Staff saw it daily, him packing at midnight, her asleep by 10. They barely crossed paths, a maid later spilled. Like strangers with the same address. Was it always this way? Rewind to 2008-2009, Barron in preschool, Donald's star rising again. The Apprentice kept him busy, his ego fed by ratings. Melania modeled less, focused on motherhood. They show up together, galas, golf outings, but insiders noticed the chill. She'd smile, he'd talk, then they'd split, a friend recalled. No hand-holding, no warmth. Publicly, they played the game, Donald praising her beauty, Melania nodding along. Privately, the gap widened. Affairs rumors hit. Stormy Daniels in 2006, others later. Melania never flinched on camera, but separate beds told a story she wouldn't. Barron's revelation flipped that story public. Forever meant no passion, no reconciliation, just coexistence. Was it betrayal that drove the wedge? Donald's wandering eye wasn't new, Ivana's divorce cited it, Marla's fling started it. Melania, stoic, might have swallowed it early, part of the deal. But swallowing isn't forgiving. Maybe she drew a line, you get my loyalty, not my nights. Or maybe it was simpler, two people too different to share a mattress. Donald's chaos clashed with her calm, his noise drowned her silence. Over years, love faded to duty, beds split to match. The fallout kept growing, ex-posts dug deeper, Melania's trapped. Donald's a clown, while talk shows ran wild. Psychologists weighed in, separate sleeping can signal emotional distance, one said. For a kid to notice, that's trauma. Barron's life flashed in people's minds. A boy in a mansion, then a monument, watching his parents orbit apart. Did he blame them, hate them? At 19, he was old enough to judge, tall enough to tower over Donald, bold enough to strike. Humiliating them wasn't accidental, it was a reckoning. Donald fought back, but it faltered. "We're fine folks, the best," he yelled at a Florida crowd, voice hoarse. Supporters chanted, but skeptics smirked. Melania's next move was colder. She skipped his next event, jetting to New York alone. "She's done," X buzzed. Barron broke her silence. Divorce rumors spiked. Legal experts guessed prenup terms. Tabloids mocked. First Lady flees. Donald's team pushed unity pics, old shots of them smiling, but the damage stuck. Barron's words weren't a leak. They were a flood. Melania's hurt ran deep. She built a fortress, privacy her armor, Barron her shield. Now he turned that shield into a spear, piercing her dignity. Friends said she cried at Mar-a-Lago, rare tears for a woman of steel. "She feels betrayed," one whispered. By both of them. Donald for letting the family rot, Barron for telling the world. She guarded him, kept him from cameras, from chaos, only for him to torch her peace. The separate beds weren't the scandal, the exposure was. And it left her raw, reeling, a queen dethroned by her prince. Could they fix it? Doubtful. Decades of distance don't mend overnight. Donald, stubborn, wouldn't bend, winning matters more than warmth. Melania, wounded, might retreat further. Separate rooms could become separate lives. Barron's blow didn't just shame them, it shattered the illusion they'd lived. The Trump brand, bold, unbreakable, crumbled under its own weight. Enemies laughed, allies winced, and the world waited. Would they fight, split, fade? One thing was sure. Barron had changed the game, and the stakes were higher than ever. Barron Trump didn't just drop a secret, he swung a sledgehammer, smashing the Trump empire's foundation to dust. They sleep separately, forever. That simple confession, raw and unfiltered, wasn't just a teenage jab. It was the killing blow to a dynasty built on bravado, beauty, and lies. Donald and Melania, once untouchable, stood humiliated, their marriage a punchline, their legacy a wreck. The fallout didn't fade, it snowballed, swallowing them whole. By March 2025, 2 months after Barron's strike, the Trump name wasn't a crown, it was a curse. And Barron, the quiet giant, emerged the unlikely victor, rewriting his family's story with one devastating truth. The chaos erupted fast. Donald, back in the White House, faced a barrage he couldn't dodge. His second term, meant to cement his legend, became a sideshow. Advisors begged him to focus, border walls, tax cuts, China talks, but X didn't care. Posts screamed bedgate, not policy. Donald's alone every night, sad. One viral tweet mocked, racking up millions of retweets. Rallies shrank, supporters still cheered, but crowds thinned. He's a genius, sure, one fan grumbled, but this family stuff's a mess. Even MAGA diehards winced. Separate beds didn't fit the strong man myth they'd bought. Donald tried to bulldoze it like always. Fake news, folks, he roared at a Texas rally, sweat beading under the lights. Melania's happy, I'm happy, Barron's just kidding. The mic crackled, his voice strained. He waved old photos, him and Melania grinning at Mar-a-Lago, Barron a toddler between them. See, perfect family, but the crowd's claps felt forced, eyes darting. His team flooded airwaves. Fox News ran Trump unity segments, Hannity snarling at lib liars. It didn't stick. Barron's words clung like tar, simple, undeniable from the source. No spin could scrub, forever clean. Melania's retreat fueled the fire. After Barron's reveal, she vanished from D.C. No first lady duties, no photo ops. Paparazzi caught her at Trump Tower, sunglasses hiding her eyes, lips tight. She's done, insiders swore. Won't even talk to Donald. Her silence screamed louder than any denial. Past scandals stormy, the I don't care coat she'd weathered with grace. This was different. Barron, her baby, her pride, had betrayed her. Friends said she paced her suite, blinds drawn, replaying his words. Forever. Decades of sacrifice, modeling motherhood, the White House, reduced to a tabloid gag. The separate beds weren't news to staff. Trump Tower, the White House, Mar-a-Lago, everywhere they lived, the split was routine. Donald's suite, gaudy, cluttered, a king's den. Melania's, sleek, serene, a queen's refuge. Never saw them share, a housekeeper admitted. Not once. Back in 2006, when Barron was born, it might have been sleep, Donald's all-nighters, Melania's newborn nights. By 2010, it was set, him plotting empires, her raising their son. White House years locked it in, Donald raging at aides, Melania sipping tea across the compound. Polite strangers, a guard called them. No fights, just nothing. Barron saw it all. A kid in a split castle, he felt the void. Trump Tower's 66th floor, gold walls, marble floors, but no closeness. White House nights, Secret Service at his door, parents miles apart. He'd kick a soccer ball alone, tinker with gadgets, grow taller than his dad. Half-siblings buzzed elsewhere, Donald Jr. On X, Ivanka on TV, Eric at rallies, Tiffany in LA, Barron stayed back, Melania's shadow, watching. He's quiet, teachers said at Columbia Grammar, then St. Andrews. Smart but distant. Math whiz, soccer star, tech nerd, yet always alone. Did he resent it? Did forever fester in him, a wound waiting to burst? At 19, he snapped. January 2025, Donald's inauguration fresh, Barron spoke. No press conference, no script, just a leak, a whisper to a friend that hit X like lightning. They sleep separately forever. Why? Revenge, power. Years of being the afterthought, the fifth kid, the baby, might have boiled over. His siblings rode the Trump train, he sat on the sidelines. Maybe he hated the charade, Donald's bluster, Melania's poise, a family faking it. Or maybe it was simpler, a son tired of silence, spilling the truth to breathe. Either way, he won. He humiliated them, flipped the script, stole the throne. The Trump brand bled. Trump media stock tanked, 20% in a week, analysts citing instability. Hotels saw cancellation. Who wants to stay where the family's a joke? One guest sneered. Golf courses emptied, memberships lapsed. It's toxic now, a marketer sighed. Barron killed the vibe. Donald's enemies danced. CNN ran Trump implosion marathons. MSNBC mocked separate bed presidents. Pelosi tweeted, sad, with a smirk. Even allies squirmed. Lindsey Graham mumbled family matters and dodged cameras. The empire built on swagger cracked under shame. Donald's rage turned inward. Insiders said he called Barron, voice shaking. You happy now? Ruined us. No answer leaked. Barron stayed mute, a ghost. Melania refused contact, holed up in New York. She's broken, a friend wept. Won't forgive either. Divorce whispers grew, lawyers spotted at Trump Tower, prenup talks buzzing. She's got millions, an expert guessed. Could walk any day. Donald, 78, looked older, bags under his eyes, rants less sharp. Melania, 54, seemed ageless but fragile, a statue chipped by her son's chisel. Barron vanished too, no school, no sightings. Rumors flew, Europe with friends, a hideout in Florida, even a tell-all book. He's free, ex-guest. Blew it up and bounced. At 67, he loomed larger than ever, not just in height, but in legacy. He'd outdone his siblings, outshone his parents, all with 6 words. Donald Jr. tweeted family first, too late. Ivanka posted a vague love. Eric and Tiffany stayed quiet, outmatched. Barron, the silent one, had roared loudest. The end came fast. March 2, 2025, today the White House buzzed with leaks, Melania filing, Donald retreating to Bedminster. Marriage over, X declared, trending Trump split. Supporters mourned, he's still our guy, but the shine was gone. Barron's blow didn't just expose beds, it bared a truth. The Trumps were a house divided, always had been. Donald's brash reign, Melania's quiet strength, props in a play Barron ended. The dynasty fell, not to rivals, not to time, but to its own son. And as the dust settles, one question lingers. Was this his plan all along? If you enjoyed this story, check out another video with an even more amazing tale. There's always something exciting waiting for you on our channel. And don't forget, more wonderful stories are coming soon. Hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of our upcoming adventures.